The movie begins in 1942 with Major Gus March-Phillips and Anders Lassen aboard a Swedish-flagged sailboat when a German naval team boards them. The German captain, irritated by their drunken, carefree demeanor as they mock him, orders the boat to be soaked in kerosene and set on fire, recalling a similar incident where he had previously burned another vessel. However, the Germans soon discover an armed man, Henry Hayes, hiding below deck, who immediately opens fire. Amid the chaos, Anders slits the German captain's throat, and the boarding party is swiftly eliminated and thrown overboard. Meanwhile, the Germans had come from a nearby destroyer, which is the target of Freddie Alvarez, a diver who had planted explosives on its hull. As the destroyer begins firing on the sailboat, the team taunts it using the dead German captain's body. At that moment, the explosives detonate, sinking the destroyer. In late 1941, Germany dominates the Atlantic with its deadly U-boats, small but highly effective submarines that devastate merchant ships traveling between the US and the UK. During World War II, the United Kingdom struggles to fend off Nazi Germany's efforts to conquer Europe, with London frequently enduring Luftwaffe bombing raids. Meanwhile, German submarines relentlessly sink British supply and aid ships in the Atlantic, leaving the UK critically short of munitions, essential supplies, and manpower. The country requires 3 million tons of supplies each month, but U-boats are destroying half of that. Until the U-boats lose control of the Atlantic, deploying US troops to Europe remains impossible. Flashback to 25 days earlier. As U-boats tighten their grip on Britain's supply chain, Prime Minister Winston Churchill meets with Brigadier General Colin Gubbins and Lieutenant Commander Ian Fleming to devise a counter-plan. Their mission to disrupt the U-boat's supply network by targeting the Italian supply ship Duchessa d'Aosta and its 2 accompanying tugboats, which are stationed on the Spanish-controlled island of Fernando Po. These vessels are crucial for servicing, rearming, and repairing Hitler's Atlantic U-boat fleet. However, bombing the island is not an option, as Fernando Po, located off Africa's west coast, is neutral territory. Any direct Allied attack would risk pushing the rest of neutral Europe into Hitler's camp. The stakes are high. If the operatives are caught by the British, they will face imprisonment. If captured by the Nazis, they will suffer torture and execution. At the Special Operations Executive Headquarters in London, Gubbins and Fleming, with the indirect support of Prime Minister Churchill, prepare to launch Operation Postmaster, a covert Black Ops sabotage mission aimed at crippling the German U-boat resupply operations on Fernando Po. Accompanied by SOE agents Marjorie, Stewart, and Richard Heron, Gubbins enlists Major Gus March-Phillips to assemble a ground team to destroy the Italian supply ship Duchessa d'Aosta and its 2 tugboats. Heron, already living undercover on Fernando Po, operates an illegal gambling business, counting high-ranking Nazis among his clientele. Marjorie will pose as a gold trader from New York, tasked with seducing and distracting the German commanding officer, Heinrich Luhr. The team has only 44 days before the Nazis relocate their operations elsewhere, and Heron and Marjorie's job is to ensure that the Duchessa is fully stocked with supplies, making its destruction strategically worthwhile. For the mission, Gus selects his own team. Danish naval officer Anders Lassen, a lethal fighter with a wild upbringing wrestling bears. Freddie Alvarez, an explosives expert. Henry Hayes, a skilled sailor seeking vengeance for his brother who was killed by Nazis, and master strategist Geoffrey Appleyard. However, Gus soon learns that Appleyard, whom Gubbins had sent ahead, anticipating Gus would want him on the team, has been captured by the Germans. Believing that Appleyard holds vital information necessary for the mission's success, Gus and his team alter their course to a Nazi-controlled section of the Canary Islands to attempt a daring rescue. While SOE agents Marjorie, Stewart, and Richard Heron travel by train to Fernando Po, Gus and his team strategize a plan to rescue Appleyard. During the journey, Marjorie and Heron discreetly steal the suitcase of a German military officer, uncovering the Duchessa's cargo manifest, which details a critical shipment: 400 B-grade torpedoes, 5,000 tons of diesel, and 10,000 CO2 filters. After quickly recording the information, they return the suitcase before its absence is noticed. Meanwhile, in London, British military leaders urge Prime Minister Churchill to consider surrender, convinced that the UK cannot withstand a German invasion. However, Churchill firmly rejects their recommendation. He is fully aware that if Operation Postmaster is exposed, it could cost him his position, as Parliament would likely remove him from office, but he is willing to take that risk. Following their successful sinking of the destroyer in the film's opening, Gus and his crew are still 18 days away from Fernando Po. They travel aboard the Maid of Honor, a neutral Swedish fishing trawler, carefully making their way down the West African coast. The sailboat is loaded with explosives, intended for the final destruction of the Duquesa. Gus and his crew arrive in La Palma, only to discover that a high-ranking German officer is already present. Realizing that if Appleyard is moved, they will never see him again, Gus makes the bold decision to launch the rescue operation in broad daylight. While scouting, they are spotted by 2 German patrolmen, but Anders swiftly eliminates them with his bow and arrows. With precision, Anders also takes out the guards in the watchtowers, ensuring the team can move undetected. Despite the high stakes, Gus and his crew remain calm, composed, and almost playful as they storm a heavily armed German military camp. Inside the command room, Anders locates Appleyard and, without hesitation, launches a solo attack, taking down all the German soldiers in the room with just a knife. Meanwhile, Marjorie and Heron arrive early on Fernando Po and begin preparing for Gus's arrival. Using Heron's illegal gambling hall as a base, they quietly recruit local allies to reinforce Gus's team. Marjorie, posing as a gold trader, seduces SS Commander Heinrich Luhr, gaining his trust while negotiating to buy the gold he is selling. To create a distraction when Gus's sailboat arrives, Heron plans to throw a grand party at both his club and the docks, drawing the Germans' attention elsewhere. He also receives crucial intel from his friend, Spanish Captain Binea, who resents the German presence in his town. Binea informs Heron that the Duquesa is now set to depart 3 days earlier than expected, putting added pressure on their mission. With 15 days left before reaching Fernando Po, Gus and his crew take a longer route to avoid German U-boats patrolling closer to the African coast. When Gus receives an urgent radio message, he makes a risky decision, sailing directly through a British naval blockade of Nazi-occupied West Africa. This shortcut will shave 3 days off their journey, but if their unauthorized mission is discovered, they risk immediate arrest. Meanwhile, Germany intensifies its war efforts by launching an aerial bombing campaign on London. As Gus's sailboat moves through the blockade, a British destroyer, commanded by Admiral Pound under orders from Naval High Command, intercepts them. Just as capture seems imminent, fate intervenes. A German U-boat suddenly attacks, forcing the destroyer to retreat, allowing Gus and his crew to slip away. Meanwhile, on Fernando Po, Heron and Marjorie seek the assistance of local Prince Cavill, requesting a tugboat to rendezvous with Gus's team outside the harbor. Understanding the stakes, Cavill not only agrees but also provides additional men to help seize control of the harbor if they encounter resistance from the Germans. On the night of the planned raid, Heron orchestrates 2 simultaneous parties, one for the officers and another for the sailors, ensuring that both groups are well occupied, with enough prostitutes to entertain every attendee. During the event, Marjorie and Heron discover that SS Commander Luhr has secretly reinforced the Duquesa's hull, despite objections from its Italian captain, Umberto. This unexpected modification makes the Duquesa nearly unsinkable. Meanwhile, a mole within Gubbins' staff leaks the mission details to senior command. Admiral Pound attempts to halt the operation, but Gus ignores the order. Gubbins informs Churchill that their cover has been blown, but remains confident that Gus and his team will proceed regardless. After all, Gus was chosen precisely because he doesn't follow orders. Receiving the warning just in time, Gus and Appleyard quickly pivot their strategy. Rather than attempting to sink the Duquesa, they decide to hijack the ships and sail them out of the harbor, intending to hand them over to the British Navy. Appleyard and Anders lead the assault on the Duquesa, aiming to seize control of the vessel, while Gus and Freddie rig explosives at the harbor's fuel reserves to prevent the Germans from pursuing them. Gus and Hayes take command of the tugboats, preparing to tow the Duquesa out to sea. Freddie sets charges to destroy the Duquessa's anchor, ensuring the tugboats can pull it free. However, the fuel dump explodes prematurely, alerting the Germans before the Duquessa is fully clear of the harbor. Alarmed, the sailors abandon their party and launch an all-out attack on the escaping tugboats. A fierce battle erupts as Gust's crew, reinforced by Campbell's men, fights back. Despite the intense resistance, they successfully tow the Duquessa out to sea, securing their mission's success. Although Luhr eventually realizes Marjorie's deception when her act begins to falter, the raid is already in motion. Before he can stop them, Marjorie shoots him in the head, ensuring the mission's success. With the operation complete, she and Heron commandeer the last remaining patrol boat in the harbor and set off to rendezvous with the Duquessa at sea. After successfully delivering the hijacked ships to a British fleet stationed outside Lagos, Gus and his team are promptly arrested for their unauthorized actions. While awaiting court-martial, they receive an unexpected reprieve. Churchill intervenes, not only saving them, but officially recruiting them into his newly established Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Their daring raid has not only crippled the Nazis' naval operations, but has also paved the way for the United States, having just entered the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor, to join the fight in Europe. In a closing montage, the post-operation fates of the key figures are revealed. Gus becomes a celebrated war hero, leading several more successful raids before marrying Marjorie at the start of her acting career. Appleyard earns multiple commendations for his role in the mission, reportedly to the amusement of the king. Hayes goes on to become a legendary spy, renowned for surviving a full year of Nazi torture without ever breaking. Lassen continues conducting high-risk raids outside the unit until his death in 1945. Ian Fleming, who was part of Gubbins' inner circle during this time, later draws inspiration from Operation Postmaster, using it as a foundational influence for his James Bond novels. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.